In this episode of OG55, I am joined by George, the Italiano. Today, we're talking all about Tiana's Bayou Adventure. We got some news for the Florida version of this attraction. We're also going to talk about what's going on with the Tokyo version, right? Are they ever going to retheme it? Will they retheme it to Tiana's? Will they retheme it, but maybe to another franchise? We're going to talk about all the possibilities up next on OG55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. I am joined by George, the Italiano. We're going to talk all about Tiana's Bayou Adventure. But before I introduce my co-host, my collaborator, my brother, my partner in crime, the Italiano, I do want to wish everybody, all the moms out there, a very happy Mother's Day indeed. Absolutely. George, if you could let everybody at home know where they could find you on social media.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info. And I, too, also want to wish all the moms out there a very, very happy Mother's Day indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's dive in. We got some Tiana news today, actually. We woke up to this and it was pretty cool stuff. So this is from the one, the only Mr. Scott Gooston, the man, the myth, Mr. Gooston. We do seriously appreciate Scott so much. He does a lot for just our community. He's on top of all the news. Really does a great job. But he says here, Tiana's Bayou Adventure officially opens at Magic Kingdom Park at Walt Disney World Resort on June 28th. Right underneath that, you can see it. It says here, expect the opening date to be officially confirmed. And it shows some Ryan Seacrest there right after the commercial break. Love the humor, Scott. That is perfect. So what he's trying to say here is that on American Idol tonight, we are going to get it officially confirmed. So that's interesting, George. What do you think about this date, June 28th? Is that surprising to you, or is it pretty much in line with kind of what we expected here?
It's kind of in the line of what I expected. I actually thought it was going to be officially opened a little bit earlier than the 28th, to be honest with you. I thought it would actually be maybe within like the first week of June. But I think that, having it on later in June kind of solidifies, because I know different school districts have different ending dates to their school year. So I feel like having it at the end of June kind of locks it into place that whoever would want to maybe have the experience to be one of the first riders, during their summer vacation, then families have the opportunity to do so, being that it's at the very end of June. But I knew it was going to be somewhere at the very beginning of summer. I know that there were a lot of talks about it coming around the end of summer. And for me, that just never really made any sense as to why you would open up, well, in this case, reopen a ride, but differently themed.
Right.
But that has been down for quite some time after the summer vacation months, after kids start going back to school, people go back to work. And especially in Florida with the summer heat, it gets very hot. And Tiana's Bayou Adventure, as how it was prior as Splash Mountain, it's a water ride.
Well, I want to ask you a question. So I've only been to Walt Disney World and Florida one time in my entire life, and that was with you, right? Mm-hmm. We had a great trip back in July, or end of July, early August. We were down there in Florida. Mm-hmm. And you're right. It was hot, muggy, humid, all of it, right? Now, if they would have waited to, say, the end of August and getting into even September, what does the weather typically look like in Florida? Is it still kind of hot and muggy, or does it start to cool down a bit?
Even in August, it is very hot. I think actually there are times where August could end up being hotter than July, to be honest with you. And September, you could still get a lot of, the heat and what have you in the heat index, but it starts to get a little bit on the colder side. But then you also have to be careful, because then you're starting to go into the hurricane season.
Yeah, you're getting into hurricane season, and like you said, kids are back in school then at that point, or starting to trickle in. You also have to understand too, this year is a D23 year, so they're probably going to want to get this thing open before that event. You know what I'm saying? Kind of notch this one in. It's open. We're done. And here's the other thing too. It officially opens on the 28th of June, but honestly, like when it comes to Disney and these rides, this thing is probably going to be soft open for like 2 weeks prior to this. Like not officially open, but they're cycling guests through, maybe 6 hours of the day or something like that. So I would start to look in about a month, probably start to look at them really cycling through guests with these soft opens. What do you think, George? Do you think that might be a possibility?
Yeah, absolutely. Because Disney loves to kind of do that, like with their cast member previews and annual pass holder previews, even to vlogging previews, for social media. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me that if like a week or two prior, than the actual official opening date, that they don't start kind of integrating that into the daily schedule.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm happy for this. I'm actually, as time has gone on, I've gotten more, and I've said it many times in a lot of videos, but not everyone watches every video. So, sometimes you kind of have to repeat yourself a little bit, but I'm excited for Tiana's Bayou Adventure. I think that what we've seen come out of the attraction as of late with the animatronics and things like that, it's really impressed me. I'm excited. I know a lot of fans kind of roll their eyes and they're like, oh man, there's going to be some screens or some projections. I kind of like that. I actually kind of like that. We've seen what they can do when you kind of marry like these physical sets and props with projection technology over in Tokyo. We're going to talk about Tokyo in a little bit, but we've seen what they can do with that. We've even seen what they can do with that here in California with the Alice in Wonderland kind of what would you call it? Like revamping. Yeah. And when done right, it's actually pretty gorgeous. And we have all these tools in our toolbox, right? Why not use them? Why not utilize them? And I got critical. I was actually very critical the other day when we were talking about Universal Epic Universe, right? They were talking about the Donkey Kong. Universal made that whole ad for the Super Nintendo World, which the ad overall was actually really, really good. But the one guy was in there, and I do forget the gentleman's name. I do apologize. But the one guy was kind of saying like, there's no screens. And I'm like, well, that's the thing. It's kind of like the Lucasfilm issue, right? Like when the lead up to the sequel trilogy, there was like this big push about like, it's practical, right? All these practical effects. It's like, you don't want to demonize one form of technology, right? You don't want to go overboard in any direction, but you don't want to like completely demonize it. And I felt they kind of did that in that video, unfortunately, because screens and projections have a place, right? So what I'm getting at with this is that the really awesome animatronics that we've seen married with the cool screens, the cool screen technology, I think might enhance the experience. Splash Mountain was very much a animatronic heavy attraction, which was really cool. But I think it's going to be equally as cool and maybe even more visually impressive to have some of those mixed media in there as well. And it's just not just animatronics. Some of the sky and the backgrounds are going to be more animated and lively. And I think that might add a lot to the attraction. But what do you think, George?
For me, I always say that there's like a time and place for everything, depending on the type of technology that you're using for each in particular ride. In the instance for Donkey Kong Country, it is a type of attraction based off of the layout of the land. It doesn't need screens.
No.
It probably can just do for what it is. It's just giving guests the experience of what it's like to ride in the Donkey Kong video game, riding in the cart, jumping the track, blasting off out of the barrels, stuff like that.
Which looks actually, not to cut you off though, dude, Bayou Reconstruct, who's like the GOAT, right? We love Bayou. But he had an aerial shot of that part where the barrel with the launch was pretty good, man. It looks better than I was expecting to. I was like, okay, all right.
That ride is one of the top rides that I'm looking forward to out of all of Epic Universe. Donkey Kong Country and the Dark Universe section is basically what I'm looking forward to out of the whole entire park.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of, you had mentioned Tokyo with the new Peter Pan attraction. what I loved how they integrated both the physical sets with the screen technology. For instance, they showed the Lost Boys or the Lost Children on the screen, and they were pulling the little boat, and they were pulling the rope.
Wait a minute, hold on real quick. Lost Children in Tokyo, they're referring to them as that?
I believe so. Yeah,
Interesting.
I think they don't utilize the term "lost boys." I think they say "lost children."
That's it, because it's mixed. It's boys and girls.
No, as far as I know, they were just all boys, but they're just
Okay.
not solidifying the notion as boys. They're just saying the lost children. That in the sense that if why is it only boys that end up in Neverland? Why couldn't there be lost girls if that was the case?
That's interesting, and it also might be a translation thing too in there somewhere. But that's interesting that they word like that. I was just wondering. I haven't heard that before, so I was curious. But
Yeah.
go on. I do apologize.
No, not at all. So there was a scene where they're pulling this little boat up with a rope. Now you could see on the screen the characters and the rope, but the actual boat is a physical set piece. But it intertwines, so as they're pulling the rope on the screen, you see the boat hoisted up.
Okay.
So I love how they can kind of marriage both the physical set with the screen based technology, and I hope that if that's the case that they use for Tiana's, that they kind of integrate it with the physical set pieces itself.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Another thing I'm really looking forward to with Tiana's is one of my favorite scenes in Pirates of the Caribbean out here in California is that when you first like leave the dock, right, the loading area, and you go into the bayou. And it's that slow kind of like you're just kind of chilling, kind of moving forward. It's real slow. And you hear the banjo playing and you see the beautiful, trees and the fireflies and what have you. It's a pretty cool experience. I love that part. I know it's a really slow burn. A lot of normies get bored at that section. They're on their phones and what have you. But for me, I actually love that. It's one of my favorite parts of the entire attraction. And you're passing by like the Blue Bayou, restaurant and everything. So I love that. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is because this attraction, Tiana's, is going to take that Bayou section of Pirates, and it's going to be 10 times that or more, like in this massive show building. That Bayou energy with the fireflies. I think if done right, we still have to wait and see. We're gonna give it a fair shake here. We'll see how it turns out. But if done right, I think this could be really beautiful on that scale with that kind of theme and those fireflies and the trees and that vibe. I don't know, man. I think that could be really, really cool. I don't know. That's my feeling on it.
I think the overall aesthetics is going to really give an initial like pop at night, as you said, like with the fireflies, the color scheme that they used. In the daytime, I think it'll be fine. I just think that they needed less greenery.
Like on the hill or
on the
mountain.
hill. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Everything else, like the actual Bayou swamp area with the trees and everything, they knocked it out of the park on that. I just feel like they kind of overcompensated up on the top of the mountain itself. And I kind of wish that they could have at least incorporated something on the top, even if it was a different version of a tree stump, to kind of give it like it could still have like that Bayou flair to it, but just so it can you can look in the distance and kind of see the peak top of something and say, okay, that's Tiana's Bayou Adventure. And I do know that they had plans for the Mama Odie's boat house, like the boat treehouse type thing,
Right.
but the structure was just too heavy, to place on the top, which I could completely understand, but I just wish that they were able to put something on the top there.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. And let's pivot now because this actually ties into to kind of like Fantasy Springs in a way. A lot of people, because I agree with you, there is a lot of foliage there, and that's been a complaint, and I can see that. I actually, for some reason, though, I think the Disneyland version seems less cluttered up there for some reason.
It is, and I hope they keep it that way. I hope they don't keep on adding more because I think it's at a position right now where it looks fine.
It looks fine. Yeah. Hopefully they keep it the way it is. But so Tokyo, there's rumor, and I'm saying rumor because that's what it is right now. Nobody really knows. You know what I'm saying? I mean, people are speculating. People are saying they're hearing things, but we really don't know for sure. There's rumor that Disney is really pressuring Oriental Land Company, OLC, who owns and runs the Tokyo Disney Resort. They're pressuring them to swap the theme out to Tiana's, and supposedly, according to rumor, OLC is pushing back. They don't want to do it. Now the narrative is, well, they're pushing back because Tiana's is a bad ride, and the Japanese company OLC, they don't want anything to do with it because it's a bad ride. Here's my thing with that. And again, we're all speculating here. So I'm not like this is my opinion. I'm not giving any kind of definitive anything. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion, I don't think it has much to do with that at all. I don't think it has much to do with the quality statement coming from Japan. I think it has more to do with what IPs work in that area of the world in Japan. And maybe OLC doesn't feel like that's something that works for them over there. Not necessarily that Tiana's is a bad ride, what they've seen of it, right? It's just that for this IP and yada yada yada, it doesn't work for them, that region of the world. Now, Splash Mountain is a very problematic, I don't want to say attraction. It's not the ride system, but the Song of the South is a very problematic IP, right? And that was what Splash Mountain was themed to. Now, but that's a cultural thing here in the States, right? Mm-hmm. In Japan, though, it's a different culture. So that problematic element isn't as prevalent over there. It's a different thing over there. So that element doesn't really exist over in Japan like it does out here in the States. So Japan, I think, is weighing it out. Like, hey, is it worth changing this attraction for this when it doesn't really it's a different situation out here, and maybe this IP in particular doesn't hit as hard out there in Japan. I think it's more about the IP and all that than it is about, well, what OLC has seen is bad and therefore we don't want to bring it. Because here's the thing too. I gotta say it. Look, the Fantasy Springs area they just opened, or they're openings very soon in Tokyo. I mean, it looks very similar to Tiana's. I mean, what we're talking about with Tiana's, with the massive overgrowth on the hill or the mountain, looks a lot like that. So when I hear people say, well, Japan, they don't want Tiana's, it's an eyesore and it's ugly, I'm like, well, wait a minute here. I don't see much difference here in the thing that Japan actually built. It looks kind of similar. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't think it's a quality thing. I think it's more about there's other things at play here. Assuming the rumor is even true, we don't even know if Disney's actually pressuring Japan or not. Right. It's a rumor. It's a rumor. What do you think, George?
So here's my assumptions of it. So it definitely has like the overall aesthetics of how Tiana's Bayou Adventure looks, along with Fantasy Springs. Now, one could also say too, depending on when they started their overall vision of concept for Fantasy Springs. Now, they said that there's in a clause that they cannot utilize IP and ride systems together within a 5-year span upon opening. That was the terms with the domestic parks with Tokyo Disney. However, I do not think that there was anything in the clause about aesthetics of the land, so to speak. So actually, the foliage that you see on Tiana's Bayou Adventure may have been inspired from Fantasy Springs.
It could be, because it's close enough. It's close enough where I'm like, it's pretty similar. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And for me, after watching some videos of the overall tour of Fantasy Springs, because there were some people that got to do kind of like a soft opening kind of tour type of thing, staying in the hotel, viewing the land, what have you. There are some elements in the land, and actually a lot in the Fantasy Springs Hotel, that pays tribute to Princess and the Frog. They actually even have these big sitting couches that are oversized lily pads.
What? Okay, so maybe my theory is wrong, right? Because I was saying, hey, maybe Princess and the Frog isn't a big IP out there in Japan, because I've never been to Japan, so I don't know what's hot and what's not over there. Right? Maybe it's bigger than I think.
Well, that's what I thought until I saw those videos. Then I started thinking, It may not necessarily be the Princess and the Frog franchise that they don't like. It may be to OLC. They don't like that IP tied with that particular ride system. So they may very well end up getting a Princess and the Frog attraction, but it might be a type of dark ride. It could be something completely different. They may look at Splash Mountain and say, you know what? When we look at this, it doesn't scream Princess and the Frog.
Well, and here's the thing too, right? Because there's been a lot of people that have been critical.
And it's not the original story. This is also a continuation. This is an original story that may not settle well with OLC.
Right. Yeah. It's a sequel attraction. Right. And here's the other thing too. A lot of people have brought up concerns, and I get it, rightfully so, that you have an attraction based on a princess movie, and it's going to have a height requirement because it's Splash Mountain. It's like, I think it's like like a 40-inch or something like that. Height. Yeah. Around there, something like that ish, 40-ish. And a lot of people have said, well, wait a minute, you have an IP that's geared towards little girls, but then you're going to say to them they can't go on it because they don't meet the height requirement. Now, for me personally, I think that's much ado about nothing, respectfully, because honestly, Harry Potter Forbidden Journey is, I think, a younger franchise too. Those books were for kids, you know what I'm saying? And you're going to tell a kid that they can't go on that, which also has a height requirement. So it's a little, for me, I don't know why Tiana's is so special where it's like, it's not allowed over here, but it's allowed over there. For me personally, but everyone's mileage varies with that, you know what I'm saying? But with OLC, that might be a concern for them, that you have a princess attraction, or you have a princess IP, and you're limiting how, who can go on it when little kids can't ride it. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, George.
Right. No, you're fine. So that for me is, I think that OLC is not in a hurry to get rid of Splash Mountain because, again, as you said, they don't have the problematic issues that we have in the United States that connects to Splash Mountain. Tokyo, or just Japan in general, is very critter based. With the Duffy and Friends, I mean, they go gaga over that stuff. Right. So when you look at the Splash Mountain characters, Brer Rabbit, Brer Fox, Brer Bear, they kind of fit into that, overall Japanese culture. So I feel like in time, Splash Mountain may be changed at Tokyo Disney, but not because of what people are thinking that they see Splash Mountain as problematic. I think that they're just change it just because it might be an old retired attraction to them. And it's like, hey, we find an IP that can work with this type of log flume ride system.
Right.
And that's what we're going to use it. We're not going to knee-jerk reaction to say, oh, we're going to change this to Tiana's just because the Walt Disney Company wants us to.
Right. And here's the thing, too. When we talk about a quality statement, right, when people say, well, Tokyo, OLC is rejecting Tiana's because it doesn't meet the quality threshold. And that's the narrative I hear a lot of people say out there. That's fine. It's all speculation, all rumor. If that's what you want to believe, awesome. But the thing is for me, that falls a little flat because Tokyo tends to take an existing thing that we have out here and plus it anyway. I mean, look at their Soarin'. It's out of control. Okay. Their Soarin' is themed to the nine, like crazy themed. It's not like out here in California, even Epcot, it's pretty, the theming is pretty, you know what I'm saying? Kind of bare bones. Out there in Tokyo, it's not. Check it out. I mean, it's beautiful. Okay. I mean, it looks like the Venetian out there in Las Vegas or something. It's crazy. So it's like this whole idea of like, oh, well, Tiana's is a bad thing, or quality is bad quality, so therefore Tokyo doesn't want it. Well, Tokyo would probably make adjustments to it anyway. So I don't think it has anything to do with that. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with you on that. And honestly, they may be looking at using the Princess and the Frog franchise for Fantasy Springs.
Maybe. Exactly. And that's why they don't want to do it with Tiana's. So that's why, I mean, Splash Mountain, which is why as fans, we have to be very careful as like jumping to conclusions because you never know. It's like Office Space. You ever watch Office Space?
Yes, I love that movie.
With the jump to conclusions, Matt?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there's a lot of that happening.
Now, I want to ask you too, going back to the Tiana's Bayou Adventure in the domestic parks. So there's a lot of talk as to wondering when Walt Disney World's version was going to open, but then Disneyland's happened after. So can we see a timeline with that? So now that June 28th is going to be the official date for Tiana's Bayou Adventure at Walt Disney World, when do you feel like that we could possibly see Disneyland's opening? Because they're moving at a very fast pace to get this up.
Yeah,
and I think that they're going to want it up before the end of 2024, obviously, because it said winter, but I think it's going to be before winter of 2024, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we were there recently, like a couple weeks ago, and they're really moving. It seems to be moving much faster here in California, which is no shock. Everything moves faster here in California. Florida takes 9 years to build Tron. It's like, I don't know. Yeah. I don't get it. We built Mickey and Minnie's from the ground up during the pandemic in just a few years. You know what I'm saying? Florida, for some reason, I have no idea why, they really drag their feet, So it is moving along. I would think so this is June 28th for Florida. I'm thinking if I were to guesstimate, right? Maybe October, November for ours out here in California. It'll be a few months later, but not by much.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe like late September, early October.
Okay. That's actually sooner than I was expecting. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. But the cool thing, though, is with it opening on June 28th, we're going to start to see, and I think even mid-June, we're going to start to see some reports coming out of like how good this thing is or how bad it is, or we're going to start hearing some reports, as to people that go to the soft openings or even cast member previews. Things are going to start leaking out. So we're going to get a really good idea of what this attraction is all about.
Yeah.
So I mean,
if I ever got invited to something of that, I'd always, jump to that opportunity, or in this case, hop to that opportunity. But knowing me, I don't do anything that's soft.
Right, exactly. I know you're not a softie, Hunter.
Yeah,
you're not a softie. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But yeah, no, it's pretty cool, man. I'm excited. We'll see, at the time of this recording, at least out here in California, American Idol hasn't aired yet. So
yeah, it's actually right now, at the time of this recording, it's actually 36 minutes in. So I'm curious to see, they may have already said it, right? Or they actually, knowing how public broadcasting is, they're going to wait to like the very end to make that announcement.
Oh, of course. Yeah. And our friend Disney Dan on Twitter, he was speculating that, and I think he makes a good case, and he might be wrong, I don't know, but I think it's a good theory because it's American Idol. It's a singing competition. Maybe they'll drop the date, but also maybe give us like a clip of some of the original music, for the attraction. I think that would be really smart if they did that. Do I think they're going to do that? I don't know. It's possible though. You know what I'm saying? Are the normies necessarily, I don't know if an opening date is enough to get the normies like super pumped. They might have to drop something else to sort of get the crowd a little bit more hyped, and maybe giving us some music might be the right option. What do you think about that?
It's very possible. I kind of hope that they would. I think it would be kind of interesting if they had like a choir, or maybe some of the voice actors, that do the voices for the attraction, that maybe come on stage and sing, which there's a little fun known fact, because this has basically no relevance to anything, but it's just, how I am. I love to throw out the fun facts that Jennifer Hudson, who was a contestant on American Idol way back when, before she became, famous, she starred in the movie Dreamgirls, which she won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, and she co-starred alongside Anika Noni Rose, who does the voice of Tiana. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Cool stuff. Yeah, exciting times. We'll see in the next month. We're going to start to see a lot of Tiana stuff coming to the surface now. It's going to be pretty cool,
and especially with those because when I was there, I was able, with good friend Tyler, we were able to ride Winnie the Pooh one last time on the last day that it was open before they closed off that whole area. And he told me that after he went back to Disneyland, after meeting up with me and they had the whole section, he was on the train, I believe he said, and he said they're actually moving at a fast rate to even get those souvenir shops up and running.
Oh yeah, you better believe it. They want to get those up, dude. That's what do we call that? We call that money.
Brand new money, brand new hundreds, got a bunch of zeros like a bag of new Funyuns.
There we go. That's money. They want those open, believe me. But interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. So we'll see what they announce tonight. If it's more than just the opening date, if it is, we'll do subsequent videos about that. I'm sure. I mean, if it's a song or something cool like that, we'll definitely report on it. But any final thoughts, George, before we skedaddle?
So for me, I'm very optimistic. I think I became even more excited after I got to see those audio animatronics. With of Lewis, of Tiana, especially of Mama Odie.
Oh my god, dude.
And I'm like, if just looking at these audio animatronics standing alone, not in any kind of environment, they created a major impact. So to place them actually in the attraction itself with the music and the lighting and the backdrop and all the props, and if they do have some screen-based material, I think it's going to be great. I really do. And I remember one of the Imagineers stating that the movement of how fluid that they are moving, they weren't even up to a whole 100%.
Oh my god. So what we saw wasn't even the full thing yet, huh?
No.
Yeah, it's gonna be great, dude. And look, here's the thing, this is an attraction that, and I've said this before, it's not, and this is the problem with like modern fandom. And I don't just mean the park fandom, I mean all fandom. I'm talking like if you're a DC fan, Marvel fan, if you're a fan of music or whatever it is, right? In this world that we live in, it's either trash or perfect. Like there's very little nuance ever in any of these fandom conversations now, you know what I'm saying? And that's sad, So I think with Tiana's, I think that's important to kind of be cognizant and aware of, because there will be things that Splash Mountain did better. It's pretty much inevitable, right? I do think there's going to be things that Splash Mountain did better. But at the end of the day, and this is just my prediction, OG's prediction, I could be wrong. At the end of the day, though, I think for the sum of all its parts, I think that Tiana's will be a very worthy successor to Splash Mountain. I think it's going to be a great experience. I think it's going to be beautiful aesthetically. I think the music is going to be so much fun. That New Orleans,
and I was just going to say that I think is what has to deliver the most. We already know the outside aesthetics of the attraction. You could take it or leave it, too much foliage, what have you. How is it going to look at night? Okay. Right. Speaking of which, I don't really find the water tower to be that too big of an eyesore like I thought it was going to be. I actually like the water tower there, to be honest with you.
It's not bad. It's not bad. Yeah.
But
and there's a little tiara on the top. I was worried about that, and I don't know. At least out here in California, I could barely even see it, to be honest with you. I don't really care,
Yeah, because for me, I mean, it's like, it could have either fit well or not fit well, because, tiaras, they can be kind of iffy.
You never know. Yeah, exactly. And this one, it was like, okay, you look at it, whatever, But you're right, though. The water tower is it doesn't look that. I mean, I was concerned about it too, and they I don't know if they scaled it down a little bit.
Well, I was just going to say the water tower at Disneyland and the tiara didn't really seem as bulky, so to speak. It doesn't seem as big as the one in Florida, but I also feel like that the mountain structure itself in Florida is bigger, so I think they kind of matched the water tower with the size scale of the mountain itself.
Right, exactly.
Because you don't want the water tower to be overpowering the mountain.
Yeah, and there's theories that they were trying to overpower the mountain to bring the mountain to make it look smaller and this, that, and the other. I don't know if I buy that. I think that again, these are all theories, so it's like everyone's got their opinions, right? And this is my opinion. I don't think they built the water tower to make the mountain look smaller. I think they built the water tower because they couldn't do the tree on top because of structural reasons, and they felt they needed some sort of icon, and so that's what they came up with. And that's just my theory. And again, it could be to make the mountain look smaller. It could be, that's a theory out there. And I get it. I mean, that's a solid theory, but I don't think so. I think it was more or less, hey, we need something. Well, we'll do this, is basically what I think it was,
Yeah. Oh, so what I was saying was that's the one thing they have to deliver, I think. And as I said, the audio animatronics going to be great. I even think they're going to even be better than what was in Splash Mountain, because obviously technology, as time moves on, it gets bigger, gets greater, gets grander. But the one thing that they have to deliver, I feel, in my own little world, in the Italiano's world, that the music has to deliver, because the music in Splash Mountain was iconic. You have 3 iconic songs: The Laughing Place, How Do You Do, and obviously Zippity Doodah.
Right.
3 songs that are ingrained in the Disney fan community,
The culture,
that
yeah.
was always tied into Splash Mountain. So they have to deliver some, as our friend Kaylee says, some banger of some songs to kind of make that ride flow cohesively.
Yeah, and there are, people have brought to my attention that a lot of those songs have problematic elements to that, and I understand that. Normies, though, haven't really done that deep dive, unfortunately, but they really haven't done that deep dive. So it's like for normies, they're just listening to the music, right? And so I think you're right, George. I think that I think those are very catchy songs. So this Tiana attraction needs to have songs that are very, very catchy. Do I think they have to necessarily match the Splash Mountain songs? No, I don't think so. I don't think they have to be, even as good necessarily. But let's just say the music in Splash Mountain was a 9. I think Tiana needs to at least hit like a 7.5.
Let me rephrase that. I don't think anything can kind of touch the Splash Mountain soundtrack, to be honest with you, because for me, Zippity Doodah was one of the basically the park anthem. Even it was just like tied to the park. So I feel like it just needs to be something where, not that it has to necessarily match the soundtrack to Splash Mountain, but as long as it does the Tiana's Bayou Adventure justice.
Absolutely. And that's the thing too. I was really worried about, I've said this many times, but Mary Poppins Returns, I was so worried about the music. And by the way, thank you to Girly Nerd. I made a mistake on a recent video about Mary Poppins Returns. The music was not done by Lin-Manuel. It was not done by him.
Was it Mark Shaman?
Yeah, it was. So I made a mistake. I do want to correct that. Lin-Manuel starred in the movie, so I got confused with that and the music. I thought, hey, he's in the movie. Why would he do the music? That was weird to me, but he didn't. Like you said, it was Mr. Shaman. But anyway, I digress. But Mary Poppins Returns, the music for that movie does not reach the legendary status of what the Sherman Brothers did with the first movie. I don't think many things will, but it was a worthy follow-up, though. The music in that sequel was really solid. So does it match the original in terms of legacy, or no, but it comes close. It does a really, really good job. And I think that's all it really needed to do. I think that, come on, it's the Sherman Brothers. I mean, you're not going to.
Can't beat the Sherman Brothers.
Yeah. And I understand the Sherman Brothers were, the Sherman brother, Richard, he was a, what was it, like a consultant on that movie, the new one or whatever.
Yes.
So that helps. But yeah, those original songs, though, you're never going to quite. But like I said, it came close. It was really, really good. And I think if this ride can come close and just get people singing in their logs and having fun and toe tapping and just being really cool, like, oh man, this is fun energy, I think Tiana's will be a huge success. If they can hit that, I think we're good. And I like the idea too that they're doing, from what I understand, like original orchestra and stuff. They're not just taking like the music from the movie and just playing it in the attraction. Like there's an orchestra, from what I understand, I'm not a music guy, so it's hard for me to say this, but kind of going through and like
an original type of score. They're updating the score. They're not just putting in the Princess and the Frog soundtrack CD and just playing it. Yeah.
They're reconfiguring it into the whole thing. So I think it's gonna be beautiful. So I'm very optimistic, but we'll see. We'll give it a fair shake. We'll see how it turns out. But I think it's gonna be pretty cool. I think it'll be pretty special. I really do.
I think so too. And it's the ride at Walt Disney World is, due to open on June 28th. Shortly after, several months later, we'll have the one at Disneyland. So I guess my final words I could actually say is, for Tiana's Bayou Adventure, we're almost there.
Exactly. We're almost there. We're almost there. You know what I'm saying? Almost there. But George, the Italiano, I want to thank you so, so much for joining me today. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney News and Info.
There we go. George making it look easy. George and Tiana for joining me today, and thank you all for watching us today. What are your thoughts on the official opening date for Walt Disney World's Tiana's Bayou Adventure? What are your thoughts on Tokyo and their, what do you think their approach is going to be? Are they going to keep Splash Mountain, or are they going to retheme it to Tiana's, or are they going to retheme it but maybe not to Tiana? Maybe they'll retheme it to something else, like George was suggesting, a different IP. Maybe it'll be the Duffy and Friends log ride. That would be interesting. Okay, that would be interesting. But what do you think? We would love to hear from you.
Talk about an original ride.
You know what? That would be something else, man. If they did Duffy and Friends, dude.
Oh, geez, Kaylee and Maybe would be on a freaking plane tomorrow if that would be the case.
Oh, they would love it. They would love it. I don't know. I mean, I used to, when they had Duffy out here at DCA. See, that's the thing, man. There were so many people out here that were like giving Duffy like a lot of shit. Like they didn't like Duffy. I like Duffy. I think he's adorable. And his little friends, like the turtle. Have you seen the turtle?
The turtle, yeah.
Dude, it's like the cutest thing in the world. Like, how do you not like Duffy and Friends? I don't know. I like them, but whatever. It's not everyone's cup of tea, I guess. But for me, I really like it. But
well, if it's not their cup of tea, then all they would really need is just a spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down.
Exactly, just a spoonful of sugar. Exactly. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of OG 55, and until the next time. 세상이 누구에게나 공평하게 추악해.